Guys, happy Monday. Happy last Monday of 2020. I am Abra Kurt, a certified integrative life and wellness coach and lifestyle designer, and you are watching my series Sparked. Sparked is a weekly lifestyle series and an interactive online community that gets together and hangs out and talks right here in the comments of the show each and every week, where we light the fire of connection, reflection, and inspiration around all things personal growth, wellness, the world around us, current events, what have you. Tonight, it's the last Monday of the month, which means it is time for my virtual Let's Get Lit book club discussion. And I can't wait to share the book that we have queued up for you all tonight. Hi, Scott. Hi, Mama Vicky. Hi, Julie. It is so great to see you guys here as you are hopping on. Please say hi and let me know you're here and start connecting. As you guys are hopping on and saying hi, Georgie. It is so great to see you. As y'all are hopping on and saying hello, I would like to ask you to give me a couple of words, one word, a couple of words about how you are feeling heading into this last week of 2020. Because as I said at the top of the show, happy Monday and happy last Monday of 2020. So share with me, hey Donna, Donna saying goodbye 2020. Trish, hello, it's great to see you. Tina, it is so great to see you here. Share with me a word or two or three about how you are feeling heading into this last week of 2020, because it's been a year, right? It has been a year. So let me know how you're feeling heading into this week, coming into the space tonight. How are you feeling about this last week of 2020? And while you're sharing your word or two with me, I will share my word or two with you. And I'm feeling reflective. I'm feeling very reflective. I am looking back over because for me, I always look for, if you've been here this whole year with me, we talk about the lesson or the blessing in everything. And so I'm reflecting back over this year, looking for my lessons and blessings, and there have been a lot of both. And I am also very excited for what the future holds. Not so much because I just want to slam the door on 2020, but because I'm super excited for what's ahead in 2021. So that's a little bit about how I'm feeling coming into this space tonight. You guys are feeling hopeful and grateful. Mama Vicky says, I love that. You're always so grateful, and I love that about you. Scott is feeling cautiously optimistic, as I think many of us are. Georgie also feeling hopeful. Trish, so ready to say goodbye to 2020. Tina is feeling excited. Yes, Donna is hopeful. So we all have these positive feelings, right? About for whatever reason, right? Whether we just can't wait for this year to be over, whether we can't wait for the new year to get started, whatever feelings we have, they're good ones. Julie's feeling optimistic. Yeah, there's a lot of optimism and hope. I think we look at 2020 and we know that it has been a challenging year. It has been a challenging year on many levels and a heartbreaking year for so many people, a really hard year for so many people. I know, Scott and I have been personally blessed in so many ways this year and so much more fortunate than so many others. And that being said, we're still looking very forward to 2021, to all the good things and better days that are ahead. So thank you for sharing your words with me, because I love to see how everybody's feeling when we come into this space. I used to ask that question as a standard when we would start this show. Give me a couple words about how you're feeling coming into this space. But I especially wanted to check in with you guys tonight and see how we're all feeling as we are getting ready to say goodbye to 2020 and kick off a new year in just a few days. And I'm so excited because it is the last Monday of the month. And for me, that means I get to talk about a book I love. And those of you who know me well know that I am a giant book nerd, and books are a big part of my life. And I love sharing books with you all that have played a big part in my life, that have inspired me or it really touched me deeply in some way. And tonight's book literally has been a book that I can say has helped to change my life. Lisa, hi, it is so great to see you here. If you want to share a few words, I've been asking people to share a few words about how we're all feeling heading into this last week of the year. Trish says she's looking forward to the return of music and social events. Yes, yes. Donna says vaccines, new administrations, lots to look forward to. Tonight, you guys, I wanted to revisit a book from 2015. 2015, this book was published. Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And I can truly say that this book is one that influenced me so greatly that it changed my life. So I was a big fan. Liz Gilbert had me at Eat, Pray, Love. That was published all the way back in '06. And when this came out many years later, in 2015, I couldn't wait to dive into this big magic that she was bringing forth into the world. And I was so inspired and it just spoke to my heart. And I know that I was ready to take in what she had to say at that time for so many different reasons, but we don't always take action on those things. And this book inspired me to take action and combined with other influences in my life led me to make some huge changes within that coming year. So Big Magic was published in August of 2015. And by July of the following year, I had resigned from my life in corporate America, my career in corporate America. And literally almost a year to the day after the publication date of this book was my last day in corporate America. So that is the kind of influence this book had on me. I can't wait to share it with you. Hey, Amy, it is so great to see you here. I know you've been struggling to make the time to join one of these, and with a toddler in the house, my hat's off to you, my friend, for making the time to be here tonight. I can't wait to share this book with you. I think you will love it when you do get around to reading it. Amy's tired. Every toddler parent at this point in the pandemic. Yeah, I think you're probably right about that, Amy. Absolutely. So tonight we're talking about Big Magic by, I say Liz Gilbert because every interview that I've ever watched with her, every talk that she's given, she always asks the interviewer to call her Liz. And, she publishes under the name Elizabeth, but she always says, just, call me Liz, and they call her Liz. And she's changed my life. And so I feel like I can call her Liz. Like we have that kind of relationship. So tonight I'm going to share my key takeaways from Big Magic, the things that spoke to my heart so deeply that they truly did change my life. We're going to talk about what this tagline actually means, right? Creative living beyond fear, because it might not mean what you think it does from looking at the book's cover. So we're going to talk about what creative living beyond fear actually means in the context of this book and how the heck we do it. What Liz Gilbert says we need to cultivate more of in our lives to live our most creative lives beyond fear. I'm going to share a little bit about how this book specifically contributed to big changes, how Big Magic made some big changes in my life and led me to blaze a whole new path professionally and personally. And I'm also going to share some news about my virtual goal setting and vision board retreat that is coming up in just a little over a week, and share some very fun news about a 10-day challenge that I am running in partnership with Lisa and her organization here in DC, and that I also want to open up to all of you here in the Sparked audience. And of course, we're going to play some themed trivia throughout the show. So if that all sounds like something that lights your spark, please send up some hearts for tonight's episode of Sparked for some Big Magic. And hit that share button, please. Please hit that share button. Let's bring some more people in here. It is the last week of 2020. And, who couldn't use a little infusion of some big magic in their lives, right? I think everybody could benefit from reading this book and hearing some more about it. So hit that share button, send up some big hearts for tonight's episode, and let's dive in. You're also going to see some links to support our content and community, because as you know, it is the viewers of this show that keep it going, that allow me to devote time each and every week to creating new, original, and hopefully inspiring content that brings us all together here week after week. And of course, we pay all that forward with a 10% contribution to a charity doing important work in our local communities and all across the country every single week. So, before we dive into the content, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Georgie, for hitting that share button. All right. Before we dive in, we've talked about what we're looking forward to, how we're coming into this space. Donna has already mentioned some things that she's looking forward to. Trish has already mentioned some things that she's looking forward to. But we've given some words about how we're feeling about this last week of 2020. I want to ask you guys to share with me one thing, just one thing that you are looking forward to in 2021. Some way that you want big magic to bring something into your life in 2021. One thing that you are looking forward to in 2021. Share in the comments. Thank you to everyone who hit that share button, Donna and Vicky. And now I want you guys to share one thing that you're looking forward to in 2021, because there's some big magic in the air. I know there are some big things coming in 2021. I want you guys to share one thing that you're looking forward to. Lisa says lake life. Yes, Lisa, congratulations. Lisa just had an offer accepted on a new home. I told Lisa I feel like she's living my dream of a Hallmark movie. She's moving a little farther outside the city limits, a little bit more out in the country, to a beautiful lakefront property, a little bit farther south on I-95 in Virginia. So everybody send up some congrats and hearts for Lisa and her new home and her new adventure coming in 2021. Looking forward to lake life. Vicky says looking forward to seeing her family. Yes, as a member of your family, Vicky, I am very much looking forward to that too. That is a big thing on my list. We didn't get to see some family that we always see, Mama Vicky among them, in person at all this year. We see Vicky. She always comes to visit in the spring when it's just starting to, the cherry blossoms are blooming and the weather's starting to get a little bit warmer. And then we always see her at Thanksgiving and Christmas. And none of that happened this year. None of that happened this year. So I can't wait for that in 2021 as well. Tina says traveling. Yeah. I think all of us are looking forward to, stretching our legs a little beyond our living rooms, right? And and decks, everybody's funny jokes about posting all the places they've traveled in 2020. And it was like the guest room and the dining room and, funny things like that. So Tina, I hear you. Traveling. Donna says, looking forward to the Biden-Harris administration. Yes, I think many of us are. Amy says she hates the word, but starting a new side hustle. Amy, that's so great. Congratulations. You don't have to hate that word. I know. I get it. And like the term hustle, right, has a lot of, baggage. But I think that's amazing. Congratulations. I can't wait to hear more about it. Send me a message and tell me what you've got cooking, because I know with you it's bound to be good stuff. So best wishes on that, and I can't wait to hear more. Trish says new directions. Scott says seeing friends and family, going out to support local restaurants and live music venues. Yes, we've been doing the takeout game here all pandemic, but I can't wait to set foot back into a restaurant for the first time again. That is something we just haven't done during the pandemic. That hasn't been in our comfort level. Takeout, supporting local places, we've been doing as much as we possibly can, but actually going back to some of our favorite places. We were just listing them, this weekend as we were talking about all the things we can't wait for in 2021. Yes, Vicky is looking forward to traveling too. Georgie is looking forward to seeing her brother who lives in Texas. Yes, so many of us haven't been able to see family in person this year in 2020. So many great things to look forward to. So many great things to look forward to. And I can't wait until all of those things come true and happen for you all in 2021. I'm going to be right there with you. Okay, you guys, Here at Sparked, we kick off every episode's content with a quote of the week that is relevant to the theme. And when it is Let's Get Lit time, it is a quote from the book we are going to be discussing. So, of course, this week's quote of the week is Drumroll by Liz Gilbert and is taken directly from Big Magic. And there are so many great quotes in this book, you guys. I just want to, so these are all the post-its I have in Big Magic. And you know that when I post-it the heck out of a book like this, I just want to read every single word to you guys because it's that spectacular and that magical and that meaningful to me. But I had to really, pick and choose what I was able to share in the time that we have together tonight. And so, of all the great quotes in the book, the one I chose for the quote of the week, I feel like just really sums up what this book is about for me. And so, the quote of the week is, and it's related to that tagline, creative living beyond fear. So, this week's quote of the week is, a creative life is an amplified life. I love that word, amplified. A creative life is an amplified life. It is a bigger life, a happier life, an expanded life, and a hell of a lot more interesting life. A creative life is an amplified life, a bigger life, a happier life, an expanded life, and a hell of a lot more interesting life. I love that. I love that. So, what does that mean, right? What does that mean? Because if you pick up a book called Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Fear by a woman, and many of us, even if you weren't familiar with this book before I selected it as my December Let's Get Lit pick, most of you probably know Elizabeth Gilbert's work, Eat, Pray, Love, right? Most of us know Eat, Pray, Love. Even the guys out there know Eat, Pray, Love because it was turned into a movie starring Julia Roberts. And so we pick up a book called Big Magic that comes along, 9 years later, and it talks about creative living beyond fear. And if we don't actually pick it up and dive in, we might think that she's referring to creative pursuits, right? Like the arts, like being a writer or being a painter or, performance arts, right? My husband's a musician. So maybe it's about like creative pursuits, right? And, maybe a lot of people think it's not for me. It's not for me because I'm not, I'm not an artist. I don't, creative things aren't my hobby. It's not my profession. And this book isn't for me. But that couldn't be more wrong. That couldn't be more wrong, you guys. And here's why. Because this is what Liz Gilbert actually means by creative living. And right up front on page 9, she talks about what she means by creative living. And I just want to share this with you because hopefully this drives the point home. She says, when I talk about creative living here, please understand that I am not necessarily talking about pursuing a life that is professionally or exclusively devoted to the arts. I'm not saying that you must become a poet who lives on a mountaintop in Greece, or that you must perform at Carnegie Hall, or that you must win the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. Though if you want to attempt any of those feats, have at it. She says no. What she refers to as creative living is speaking more broadly. She is talking about living a life that is driven more strongly by curiosity than fear. By living a life that is driven more strongly by curiosity than fear. So that is what creative living means to Liz Gilbert in the context of this book. So while she writes this book from the perspective of a writer and shares that experience and her personal experiences with the readers, this isn't just a book for creatives professionally or creative hobbyists. This is a book for anybody who's interested in living a life inspired more by curiosity than driven by fear. And that spoke to my heart right away, right? Living driven by curiosity instead of fear. All right, that's great. So, creative living beyond fear. So, how do we do that? How do we do that? All right, I don't know. Stephanie, hey, it's so great to see you here. Creative living caught your eye tonight. Well, I'm glad it did. I'm glad it did. So, we are talking about it's the last Monday of the month, which means it is book club night here on Sparked, and I am sharing a book that has changed my life literally and sharing my biggest takeaways from Liz Gilbert's Big Magic Creative Living Beyond Fear. So, we're going to talk about the how of creative living in just a little while. But first, I want to share the first trivia question of the night because I said there's still trivia here. Even on book club nights, there's still trivia. And y'all, you don't have to have read the book to join in like Stephanie did because, the title caught her eye, right? You don't have to have read the book to hop on here and get something out of this discussion, okay? Because I share my takeaways, I share quotes from the books, my biggest takeaways. We talk about this book. Now, I super encourage everyone to read along with me. I love getting other people's thoughts on the books that I discuss here, and hearing from people who were inspired to pick up the book and read it after the show. But it's not a requirement by any means. We talk about the book. I share some big takeaways, but you don't have to have read the book. It's not like, an in real life book club where sometimes people don't read the book then either. So I just wanted to say that up front. All right, so we're going to talk about the how to live creatively beyond fear in just a minute. But it's time for the first trivia question of the night. And our trivia questions here on Sparked are always on theme. So tonight's trivia questions are all magic themed. Magic themed trivia tonight on Sparked. All right, so our first trivia question is, what magic word was invoked as a cure centuries ago, inscribed on talismans people wore around their necks to ward off the bubonic plague? So, what magic word, a word that we now think of as a magic word, what magic word was invoked as a cure centuries ago, inscribed on talismans to ward off the bubonic plague? Maybe we could have all used that again, in 2020. But take your guesses here in the comments. What magic word was used centuries ago as a cure to ward off the plague? And while you guys are taking your guesses in the comments, I see some coming up already. Lisa and Donna say abracadabra. All right, good guesses, good guesses. Keep those guesses coming, and I'm going to start sharing Liz Gilbert's recipe for creative living. And she literally calls it her 5 essential ingredients for creative living. 5 essential ingredients. So, what do we need to cultivate more of to have this creative life beyond fear? Scott says hocus pocus. He's going against the grain. A lot of abracadabras here. Scott says hocus pocus. One of my favorite Halloween movies of all time, I will say that, definitely is Hocus Pocus. Lisa says it even has abra in it. All right. Yes. Yes, you guys. All of you who said abracadabra, you are absolutely correct. Stephanie says we need to know so we can ward off the current plague. Yeah, would have been helpful to know 9 months ago, right? I don't know. Yeah, abracadabra is the magic word, and literally, Daniel Defoe wrote in his I don't know if it was a book or a short story or journal of the plague year, how people would inscribe the word abracadabra on talismans, and it was considered a cure or warding off of the bubonic plague, that stretched all the way back to the 14th century. So, who knew? Fun fact about the origins of abracadabra. And yeah, I love that, the nickname I have chosen from Barbara is a little bit magical. That's probably not an accident, y'all. Probably not an accident. All right. So, Liz Gilbert, 5 essential ingredients for creative living. And Big Magic is broken up into these sections. So, the chapters of Big Magic, there's a chapter devoted to each one of these ingredients. And then it's broken up into even smaller sections where she dives a little bit deeper and share some personal experiences around each of those concepts. And so I'm going to share the 5 essential ingredients, and then I'm going to share my biggest takeaway from each one of those sections in the book. So, Liz Gilbert's 5 essential ingredients for creative living are. Scott said he was going with a wild card guess. Yeah, somebody has to go against the grain, right? Keep it interesting. All right. 5 essential ingredients for creative living, according to Liz Gilbert's Big Magic, are: number one, courage. Courage. And she gives a definite distinction. Courage, not the same thing as fearlessness. So she talks a lot about courage is still having fear, and being able to recognize the fear that is like our instinctual, like, this is something that could kill you kind of fight flight response, and fear that just holds us back, right? Because there's a distinct difference. Fearlessness is just the absence of being afraid of anything and just living your life, ignoring the concept of fear. Courage is something very different, and that is her number one ingredient for creative living: courage. Number two, and this is my favorite. This one is my favorite, you guys. Number two is enchantment. Enchantment. Of course, a book called Big Magic has a chapter about enchantment. So if I wasn't already madly in love with this book, I would have been by chapter 2. All right, ingredient number 3, permission. Permission. And that also has a very interesting meaning for Liz, and we'll talk about that when I share my big takeaway from that section. Ingredient number 4. Ingredient number 4, persistence. Persistence. That just keep going, that dedication, that commitment, persistence. And ingredient number 5 is trust. Trust. So, Liz Gilbert's 5 essential ingredients for creative living: courage, enchantment, permission, persistence, and trust. All right. So now I'm going to share some passages from the book and talk about what my biggest takeaways were from each of those sections, because every single one of those concepts just spoke so deeply to me. And there's, like I said, I could just sit here and for, a whole day read every single word of this book to you guys because it was that meaningful to me. But I'm not going to do that. And that's not why y'all are here. You're here for the, the headlines, right? So I'm going to start with sharing my biggest takeaway from the courage section. My biggest takeaway from the courage section. And it's really kind of the thesis statement of this whole book, right? And something that we've already talked about. And that is, stop making decisions from a place of fear. Stop making decisions from a place of fear. Now, that's not a decision like don't cross the street while there is a speeding bus coming at you, because that's the kind of decision, the fear that like saves our lives. But stop making decisions from fear being the fear that like holds us back from our fullest, most expansive creative lives, right? Like, I'm not going to like do the side hustle, right? Amy's starting a new side hustle in 2021. Fear might hold her back, right? We say all kinds of things to ourselves when we start something new. And that kind of fear that holds us back from doing something like that is the kind that we're talking about ignoring here. The oppressive fear, right? That holds us back from pursuing our creative lives, from doing what Liz Gilbert calls unearthing the strange gems that the universe puts inside all of us. This is a concept she introduces at the beginning of the book also. She talks about how the universe buries strange gems within all of us and then just steps back to see if we discover them. and how we all do that on a different time frame and in different ways. And I just thought that was a really interesting way to look at it. Right, we're all mining the diamonds out of ourselves that the universe has placed in there somewhere, and I loved that concept. So courage for me, the biggest takeaway was stop making decisions from a place of fear. And I said I was going to share a little bit about how this book, truly impacted me. When I say a book changed my life, it wasn't the only thing, of course, that led to the decisions that, have put me here doing the work I do and having the life I have. But this book was a big contributing factor, a big push that, got that ball rolling, so to speak. And it started from recognizing that I was making a lot of decisions from a place of fear, right? And the big decision that I made to leave corporate America, to start my own business, to pursue my dreams as, my life's work, right? That is from an expansive place. That is from, a happier place. That is from a hell of a lot more interesting place, right? As our quote of the week talked about. And the choice I made to take that job, though, was from a place of fear, right? So we were coming, the recession. We were like, and most people aren't, don't get that six-figure salary benefits bonus package job offer in the middle of a recession. And I did. And I took it because it sounded like a good thing at the time, right? It sounded like work that I was going to love. And while the company I wasn't sure was going to be a good fit, like I really loved the hiring manager who was going to be my boss, and the kind of work I was going to be doing sounded really interesting to me. But also, I was like, I need to make, some more money right now. And the PR firm, the small PR firm that I had been working for, closed its doors during the recession, and I needed to get back into the workforce. And this amazing opportunity came along, but I recognized that it wasn't the gem that was within me, right? It was a decision that I was making out of, kind of fear, kind of necessity, kind of, yes, I want to explore something new. I had never worked at a Fortune 200 company before, but I didn't lead from a place of expansiveness. I was leading from a place of feeling scarcity or necessity or fear in some way. And so, at the root, the choice was maybe never going to be the right one. So that was kind of the first little like whisper in my ear, right? Stop making decisions from a place of fear. All right. Number two, her second ingredient is enchantment. Enchantment. And I love this concept. It's about falling in love with that work that we do, right? Falling in love with that work we do, having an affair with it, right? She talks about feeling about our work, like our creative thing, this strange gem that is inside us, the way people who are having an affair behave, right? Like that no matter what, they'll take 15 stolen moments, in a broom closet somewhere, right? And about how, most of us are looking for that like perfect set of circumstances to pursue our thing, right? Like, once the kids, graduate from, high school and go off to college, then, I'll start my business, or then I'll go back to work, or, once we get past, the pandemic, then, I'll, do this thing. I'll take up a new hobby. I'll start something new. I'll start that novel that I felt like I've been wanting to write, whatever it is, right? In our minds, too often we need to have these perfect set of circumstances. And people having an affair don't need perfect circumstances, right? Because people having an affair are actually breaking a perfect set of circumstances, right? Family at home, people depending on them to do and pursue something that, they have a passion for. And while I don't love that analogy, I get it. coming from a place of take the time wherever we can to pursue that thing we love, right? If it's that book inside us and we're so freaking busy and the kids need to go off to school in the morning and we have a full-time day job and we have to, get dinner on the table and the house hasn't been cleaned in 2 weeks, like I get it, right? I get all of those responsibilities, but we find the time where we can, and we need to fall in love with that strange gem that we're unearthing inside us. And I loved that concept of just being enchanted by it. And there was also another concept in the enchantment chapter that I wanted to share. And she calls it being pinned beneath the boulder. Pinned beneath the boulder. So I'm calling it pinned beneath the boulder syndrome. And I realized that I had this a little bit as well. So this was another thing that spoke to me about my own journey and led me to think differently about the circumstances I was living in. And on page 68 in the book, she talks about this pinned beneath the boulder concept. And it's this idea of, how do I top this? Like, I got this great career in a Fortune 200 company with room for advancement and a six-figure salary, bonus, and benefits package, and all of these things, right? Like, in the middle of a recession, most people would kill for that kind of an opportunity. Like, I'm not going to top this. This is as good as it gets. And so many of us get to that place. Hi, Janet. It's so great to see you here. You don't have to apologize for being late. We're just happy that you're here. And it has been a long time away. It's been a busy couple of months. But that pinned beneath the boulder syndrome is like, I'm not going to be able to top this, because we tend to also, at least in this country, have this mindset of the next thing has to be bigger and better. The next thing has to be bigger and better in some way, right? The next job, the next salary has to be bigger and better. The next title has to be more important. If we break up with somebody, our next partner needs to be, better looking and more successful, or all of the thing, like bigger, better. We're always in competition with the next version of our life. And if we just let go of that, right? We're pinning ourselves beneath this boulder of trying to top what we already have, instead of thinking, what if I just move forward? What if I just move forward and I don't have to have something bigger, better, but that different is okay for now? Different is unearthing that strange gem. I don't have to top this to be happy, to expand my horizons, to have a bigger life, to have a hell of a lot more interesting life. Doesn't have to mean bigger, better, topping the thing, right? And the example she uses is Harper Lee in interviews after she wrote To Kill a Mockingbird, such a critically acclaimed, important novel, and, talented writer. And she never really wrote anything another novel after that. And she talked about, well, how do I top that? What if I can't? What if I can't? And there again is that fear, right? Making our choices from a place of fear. Well, what if I can't top that? What if my next novel is not as good? What if the next job I get, I have to actually start at a lower level to, break into a new field, right? Which, spoiler alert, you almost always have to start at a lower level if you're breaking into something new, or volunteer first, right? Not get paid maybe for, a little while, or do that alongside a day job to make a career pivot, right? But it's that making a choice from a place of fear, connecting to our ability to move forward, get out from underneath that boulder of our own expectation that is pinning us down. So I love that concept, and I realized that also related to me in my life circumstances and helped me to kind of roll that boulder off and realize I don't need to top this. I don't need to have a higher salary. I don't need to have a bigger title. I don't need to keep climbing this ladder and do the next bigger, better, thing. That what I'm actually unearthing here is just something different. And that's okay because we have to start somewhere with something different, right? And it's not always about bigger, better, whatever. Okay. Number three was permission. Permission. And this one was also incredibly meaningful for me the first time I read it back in 2015. And I hope it resonates with you in the same way. And it's about, giving ourselves permission to do the thing we want to do and not looking for external permission, but we may find it, where we least expect it. And there's a great story she shares in this book, in that chapter about permission, where she's talking about a friend of hers who's a filmmaker and he hasn't achieved like commercial success or critical acclaim or, all the things, he thought might be possibilities with this career choice or this, creative choice that he's made. So he writes a letter to Werner Herzog, a filmmaker that he greatly admires, and literally lists all of these things that, like, the public isn't like being receptive to my work. I'm, not getting, opportunities to do, festivals or whatever the thing. He like lists all of these things, right? This long letter of complaint to like his idol Werner Herzog. And I love what she shares back, that Werner Herzog says to him, on page 116 of the book. He wrote back, "Nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it. Steal a camera if you must." And there's more before this, but steal a camera if you must, but stop whining and get back to work. And so that was a big takeaway for me. The stop whining and get back to work. Because so many of us can get caught up in that we need that external approval, right? We need that somebody telling us that, like, oh my God, I read the first chapter of your book and it's so good. Or, your live show on Facebook is so great. And we have, thousands of people who tune in every week. Like, no, we have to disabuse ourselves from this third party, permission and approval to do the thing we love, right? I do this because I love it. I love our small group. I love that it's intimate. I love that I can read the comments and respond to you guys. With 1,000 people, I wouldn't be able to do that. This group would look and feel very different. I appreciate and I'm grateful for its current form and the way it exists here and now, right? We find things to be grateful for. And I don't need someone else, I don't need 1,000 people's permission to show up here every week, right? So that's not why I do it. I do it because I love it. I do it because I love creating this show, because you guys show up, because I get feedback from people who catch the replay, because we get feedback here in the comments. People are taking things away from this that are, changing their lives in some way. I know, our friend Jenny shared with me months ago that this show helped her make the decision to go back to work, to go back to teaching full time, which is something that she hadn't done in quite a while. And so we don't need 1,000 people to tell us our thing is good. It doesn't even need to be good, which is something else entirely, but that's a different chapter, and that is our perfection complex. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But permission, we need to give it to ourselves. We need to give it to ourselves and not look to others for that permission. And that so spoke to me because in the corporate environment I was in, you need the permission to do the bigger next thing, right? You need to be given the promotion to move ahead. You need to, especially in the corporate environment I was in where there were 57, checks and balances for everything, and you were working cross department and collaborating on projects, all of these different levels of approvals and all the things, right? And not that we still don't have those layers in whatever we do, but we have to give permission to ourselves first. Permission to ourselves first. And that is the most important thing. And that was the biggest takeaway for me from that chapter. And stop whining about the things that we don't have. Stop whining about, I didn't sell 1,000,000 copies of my book on publication day, right? Just stop whining and get back to work, right? That's what we need to do. which leads to the chapter on persistence. Persistence, which is her ingredient number 4 for creative living beyond fear. Her fourth essential for creative living is persistence. And this is a big one for me. Persistence, commitment, consistency, all of those things. That was a big one for me. And that was something that I've always struggled with, my whole life is just doing the thing over and over and fighting through the, creative blocks or the, illusions of how we think something should look or what it should be, right? But Stephanie, Amy, it's great to see you guys. Yes. Thank you so much for being here while you could be. It's the persistence, right? The persistence. We got to keep going through all of the hard stuff to get through. It's what we have cultivated a lot this year in 2020, right? Persistence. Continuing to do the thing, continuing to, I don't know, try to work out, although that has been something for me that has fallen off the wayside a little bit. But whatever it is, that just persistence in doing the thing, right? And there's a passage on page 166 that I love that is about our perfection complex that I mentioned a little while ago, that has to do with persistence. And so I want to share this because it just, again, spoke to me so much because I've always been a perfectionist. I'm a Virgo. I feel like something has to be in its most perfect form before I put it out in the world. And then I still am like, oh, it's not 100% right. But, you tweak something to death or you delay something forever because it's not perfect. And that is what persistence is about. And this is what she has to say about perfection. Let's talk for a moment about perfection. The great American novelist Robert Stone once joked that he possessed the two worst qualities imaginable in a writer. He was a lazy and he was a perfectionist. Lazy and a perfectionist. Indeed, those are essential ingredients for torpor and misery right there. If you want to live a contented, creative life, you do not want to cultivate either of those traits. Trust me, what you want to cultivate is quite the opposite. You must learn how to become a deeply disciplined half-ass. A deeply disciplined half-ass. And I kind of love that. And she goes on to say, it starts by forgetting about perfect. We don't have time for perfect. In any event, perfection is unachievable. It's a myth and a trap and a hamster wheel that will run you to death. A myth and a trap and a hamster wheel that will run you to death. That is perfection. So we must become a deeply disciplined half-ass. And tweak while we go, right? Like, put our thing out there and continue to iterate it as we go. It's what I did when I launched my first candle line. God, you guys, I literally was printing labels at home on my printer, at home on my LaserJet printer. And that was my first candle. And I sold them, y'all. I sold them at craft shows because people thought they smelled really good and they loved, I always used the best ingredients. I was always the eco-conscious, alternative candle brand. And that was something that I never compromised. But when I first started, I was just putting them out there, printing my own labels at home. You guys, it was not perfect. It was not what they look like now, which still isn't perfect, and I continue to change the look of my brand, to introduce new scents, to keep tweaking those as time goes by. But, you just got to start by putting out there what we have, right? Putting out there what we have. And the same went for this show, right? The same went for this show. I started doing this. I was in 6 different rooms of the house trying to figure out what backdrop I liked best. And then I was like, well, let's just put bookshelves in my office and we'll color coordinate and we'll do some more stuff with lights. And I took some cues from my husband's live performance show that he does once a week and continue to tweak, right? But we just got to get comfortable being consistent, being persistent, and doing the thing we love, and we'll get better as we go. right? But it's that persistence that we need to keep going in the first place. And that was a big lesson for me and a big takeaway from this book, and one that I still have to coach myself through all the time. All the time. Keep going, keep doing it. Persistence, persistence, persistence. And in fact, I'm going to talk a little bit later in the show about my vision boards, but I even put mastering the art of consistency, mastering the art of consistency on my vision board this year before I even knew what was in store. So, who knew, right? Who knew? All right, it's time for our second trivia question of the night. Our second trivia question of the night before we get to ingredient number 5 is, and these are all magic themed. So, what magician adopted his stage name from a Charles Dickens character? What magician adopted his stage name from a Charles Dickens character? And while you guys are taking your guesses in the comments, I'm going to talk about Liz Gilbert's fifth ingredient for creative living. And her fifth and final ingredient is trust. And it's about what voice are we going to trust? Our own external voices, or even which voice within us are we going to trust? The voice that says, just do this, it's all going to be okay, or the voice that's like, you're not good enough, this is never going to work out. What does trust mean? And for me, this also goes back to, I will never forget, I had hired a business coach, and this is probably 2 years ago now. We're coming up on 2 years ago. I hired this amazing business coach, Kiera Fenderson. I know some of you know her. Lisa, I know you know her. I was working with her as my business coach, and I was talking about, a problem I was having with something. And she asked this question of me: what is your relationship with faith? And I paused and I had to really think through. Like, I always thought about faith and spirituality as this kind of different thing, but what is my relationship to faith in terms of trust, in terms of trusting myself, trusting my instincts, trusting my knowledge, trusting my talents, trusting my ability to make decisions? I see a lot of guesses coming up here. I see Houdini. Okay. I see Copperfield. Okay. David Copperfield. All right. We are talking about what magician adopted his stage name from a Charles Dickens character. And so when it comes to trust, I love, and this really encapsulates trust for me, the voice that we trust, right? The thing that drives us forward. And this is from page 237 in the book. 237, Liz Gilbert talks about trust. And she says that, and we'll get here. Okay. Trust is about curiosity over passion. Trust is about curiosity over passion. Trusting our curiosity, right? Curiosity is expansive. She talks about, the old idiom of just pursue your passions, just pursue your passions, not always being the thing that leads us to the happy, expansive, fulfilled, interesting life, right? Because if it's a passion, we're probably already doing it in some way. We've unearthed that thing. We know we love cats, so we're rescuing cats. We know, we love to decorate, so we're doing, but what's our curiosity? How does curiosity expand our trust in ourselves? And this one is really poignant for me because it cultivates evolution. So this is mine, that curiosity cultivates evolution. And that was the conclusion that I came to myself, right? Always being curious, because it certainly wasn't my passion for candle making that led me to make candles, right? And make a decision to leave corporate America and change my life. It was my curiosity. It was my curiosity about why I was having weird reactions and burning eyes and sneezing and sinus issues. And I finally pinpointed that it's because I literally burn candles like all the time. And I have one burning behind me tonight. I would burn candles all the time, and I was starting to, drill down into when I was having these reactions, where And I started doing some investigating into what was in the candles I was burning. And I was the person who would just buy whatever was pretty in a container or smelled good. And I never read labels. As obsessed as I was with knowing where my food came from and what was in it, I didn't read labels about what I was burning off in the air in our home. But when I got curious about it, I learned a lot, and I also got a little bit horrified. And that's when I started making my own candles. So that curiosity led to a passion that I didn't know I had, that led to, through inspiration and other influences, this big change in my life leaving corporate America, right? And that ongoing curiosity led me to a life coaching certification and the work I'm doing now. So, that continued evolution, that trust in our own ability to ask questions and keep seeking, right? I can't stress enough how much that curiosity is what we all need to keep moving us forward. Okay, you guys, some great answers. A lot of David Copperfield's One Harry Houdini. Yes, it was David Copperfield. Took his stage name from, of course, the Charles Dickens character David Copperfield, just because he liked the way it sounded. And his real first name is David, and it's something, his last name started with like a K or something. I actually didn't write that down, but it was kind of like, it was like Kotzen or something like that. So he took a name that he, liked the way it sounded more, and it was a little, similar to what his original name was. So David Copperfield, yes. All right, you guys. So those were Liz Gilbert's 5 ingredients for creative living, 5 essential ingredients for creative living. And that brings us to our moment of joy for the week. Our moment of joy, our little break in between, after that segment, I wanted to share. We're talking about big magic and resilience and, looking forward to the new year and a little bit of like rebirth and renewal. And so tonight's story is right on theme with all of that. And it is about a tiny little pygmy possum that has been found on Australia's Kangaroo Island. Now, why is this miraculous? Well, it's because that it's the first time they have found a pygmy possum on Kangaroo Island since the wild bushfires of last year destroyed most of their habitat in last summer's blazes. Y'all, who remembers those horrifying pictures of Australia in flames last year and all of the bushfires? Consensus 0 for 2 in trivia. Yeah, well, normally you're the one that's like, running the tables at trivia. Georgie is 2 for 2. Yes, go Georgie. So, I know you guys remember last summer's horrific wildfires in Australia, and these guys were super, super tiny, and their habitat was just, it was 88% destroyed, 88% destroyed by those bushfires. And they hadn't seen one of these little guys in a year, and then as 2020 is coming to an end, they found a little pygmy possum on Kangaroo Island. And in fact, it was the conservation group Kangaroo Island Land for Wildlife that found the possum as part of a larger conservation effort on the island. Now, these little guys weigh literally less than 10 grams. So this is coming from Australia, so they're doing the metric system. And that translates into our system as 1/3 of an ounce. 1/3 of an ounce is what these little guys weigh. And they're coming back, but they're still very vulnerable. Even as the bushland regenerates, they are still exposed to natural and introduced predators. So, send up some big hearts, you guys. Send up some big hearts for the little pygmy possums, because this is what they look like. Look, okay, this is a guy's thumb who's holding it, and this is like his little face. So can you see that? Oh my God, right? You just like, your heart is like, I can't even. And even look at his little eyes. It looks like he's smiling, right? This is the little pygmy possum. 1/3 of an ounce, you guys, miraculously discovered for the first time in about a year as part of a conservation effort after 88% of his habitat was destroyed in the bushfires in Australia last year. These guys are making a comeback. Big hearts for the little pygmy possums who look like this. and for the conservation groups who continue to protect them and preserve their habitats. Big, big hearts. Scott says he wants one. I know. Me too. Me too. I was like, how do we go about sponsoring some of these guys and bringing them over here? Because they don't live in the United States, right? Georgia says, "Ah, yeah." I mean, yeah. Had to share that story with you guys tonight because I saw that and my heart just went like boom. We all want a pygmy possum now. All right, you guys. Um, I said I was going to talk a little bit about my vision boards and what that all has to do with the concept of big magic, right? Because we talked about Liz Gilbert's 5 ingredients, my biggest takeaways from each of those sections for big magic, but I truly believe that the biggest magic is inside us, right? It's the strange gems that we're all mining, but the biggest magic is what we make ourselves. And I believe that every new year, I, in my own way, cast a magic spell when I do my vision board. And I know this is going to sound woo woo to some people, but it is true. And I believe this with all my heart. You guys, I want to share something. This is my vision board from 2015. Okay, this is my vision board from 2015. I save all of these. And this was from January, so Big Magic hadn't been published yet. I hadn't read it. I didn't know what was coming down the pipeline. I had not, it's a year till I, resigned from my job in corporate America, right? But some of the things I put on this board in January of 2015, the year that Big Magic was published. As a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? I was thinking career stuff in my mind, right? This quote: one doesn't discover new lands without consenting to lose sight of the shore for a very long time. Consenting to lose sight of the shore. So that idea of, I had been making decisions based on fear, clinging to the shore, right? I literally put an orange kitten on here, you guys, because I love kitties. I put an orange kitten on here in January of 2015. Guess what? August of 2015 is when we traveled to the opposite end of Virginia to a bookstore I wanted to visit because I read a book about a bookstore and I had to meet the incredible author who enchanted me with her book. And lo and behold, they were a foster cat facility as well. And that is where I met Dolly Bean. And she came into our lives the same year that I put an orange kitten on my vision board. So, you guys, I feel, and the word down here in the corner, what's that? Bliss. Bliss. Okay. A word that would come to play a huge role in my brand and my products was like part of my visioning, part of my dreams, part of the magic I was casting in my own life back in 2015. And you guys, I believe this. I showed you a little bit of my vision board from this year. Those of you who have been with me longer through this year may remember me talking about my word of the year, kintsugi, which is about breaking and rebuilding pottery that has been broken and sealing it with gold lacquer and making it more beautiful than it was before. And it's how we can look at change and when things break and end, or just embrace change and repairing and healing in more graceful ways. And so that was a theme on my 2020 vision board before all of 2020 ended up happening. Things like gratitude that I always feel, but that I've been talking about so much this year, that has been a theme for me in ways that it hasn't been in the past. And so, best financial year yet. I want to point this out. Best financial year yet. And I put that on my vision board this year, not knowing what this year was going to have in store. But I want to say how we also have to look at the deeper meaning of things, because this clearly isn't my best financial year in terms of how much money I have made. Okay, I'm just going to be honest with you guys and say that, right? I was making 6 figures in corporate America. I have not had a 6-figure 2020. That being said, I put best financial year yet on my vision board at the beginning of 2020. And what I did realize as I'm reflecting on this year is I have made more money this year at my own business doing what I love than I have in any of my other previous years. So while it's not my highest number year, it has been my best financial year yet. And it's all about perspective and how we look at it and looking for the deeper meaning of things and recognizing the magic that we put out there, you guys, comes true. It really does. And I wanted to use that as a lead in because I've talked here before about the virtual retreat that still has space in it that I have coming up on the 3rd, less than a week away at this point. This weekend, this Sunday, the end of this week, I'm kicking off 2021 with a virtual vision boarding and goal setting retreat. I'm going to introduce people to my signature goal setting method that I call my heart goal setting method, which is my own personal twist on the corporate SMART goal setting method, and one that I think is a lot more effective for people and a lot more personal and actionable. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to set goals and we're going to work through a guided vision boarding process. And for everyone here on Sparked, you all know that I have a special discount code, and that is Sparked New Year. And I know some of you have already signed up for that women's only retreat, and I can't wait to see you this weekend on Sunday before we have that retreat. But if you go to abracurt.com and go to shop retreats and use that code Sparked New Year, you will get some big savings on that virtual retreat if you would like to join me. An exclusive code just for people who come to the show because I love you guys so much and you give so much to me and I want to give back to you. So Sparked New Year, our virtual vision boarding and goal setting retreat, is this Sunday. And on Monday, the 4th, I am kicking off a 10-day challenge. I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, a 10-day challenge with our dear friend Lisa and her organization, DC Fempreneur, which is an organization that supports other women business owners in the greater DC metro region. And I want to open that challenge up to you guys as well. And there's going to be more information coming this week. Lisa and I are going live in her group on Wednesday, and I'm going to share that video to my page as well. And if you're interested, this challenge is totally free. It's a 10-day challenge about goal setting, and it's all based on what I call, it's a daily routine for achieving your goals and a little, to-do list that I call my can-do gems, And that's what the 10-day challenge is based on. So I'm kicking it off next week right here on my show. And for the next 9 days after that, we are going to talk about one of those gems each day. Now, I'm kicking it off on the show, but if you're not on my email list, you're not going to get those 9 gems to follow. So if you want to sign up for my email list and be part of that 10-day goal setting challenge to kick off 2021, also, when you go to abracurt.com to check out the vision board retreat, sign up for my email list because that's where those goodies are going to come from every single day. That's where the can-do gems are going to come from in 2021 after that half day of virtual vision boarding and goal setting on Sunday. We're kicking off that 10-day goal setting challenge on Monday the 4th, and I cannot wait, you guys. I cannot wait. All right. I talked a little bit about the charity at the beginning of the show. If you are considering a contribution to keep our content and show up and running, please consider a contribution to the show. I want to say a huge thank you to some people who have supported us over the past week. I want to thank Donna. I want to thank Georgie. I want to thank Rose. And I want to thank Tina. And I want to thank Karen and Tom for your amazing support over the past week. Your generosity is what keeps this show going, and we pay it forward every week with a 10% contribution to charity. And you guys may remember a couple of episodes back, a couple of months back, I announced on my Let's Get Lit episode that every Let's Get Lit episode, because it's about a book that has inspired me, the 10% contributions from these episodes are going to go to Save the Children's literacy programs in rural America. because that is where poverty is the highest. That is where children are lacking access to resources, that kids, even, poverty stricken urban areas have more access sometimes than those rural areas do. And rural America in Appalachia is where the little girl, Skylee, lives, who Scott and I sponsor through Save the Children. And she has just touched our hearts in so many ways. And so I'm going to give more back to the programs of Save the Children and those rural literacy programs in rural America. So that is where 10% of our contributions are going to this week. Thank you so much to everyone who is supporting this show. It means the world to me. It keeps us coming back here every single week to connect and reflect and get inspired. So I can't wait to continue doing that in 2021 with you all. I look forward to seeing many of you this weekend on Sunday at our virtual goal setting and vision boarding retreat. If you hadn't signed up yet, give it a thought and use that Sparked New Year discount to get some big savings. And sign up with us to kick off 2021 with some can-do gems to help keep those goals rolling. All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here. Like I said, next Monday, we are going to kick off 2021. We're going to launch that 10-day goal setting challenge. I can't wait for all of the amazing things that I know are in store for us. All of the dreams that we listed for 2021 at the beginning of this episode, all the things that I know we will get to experience again in the new year. In the meantime, be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. I love you guys. Have an amazing rest of your week and have an amazing new year and New Year's Day. And I will see you back here in 2021. Good night.